Well, welcome back, everybody. If you were watching that leaderboard over the intermission, you saw how interesting things have gotten at each of the players in the top three took a loss in round one. So if you're one of these players who was thinking, I got to go 8-0 today to get in, maybe 7-1 does it. Maybe you've got some additional life. This is going to be very interesting. And this game going to have huge playoff ramifications as well. Harshan versus Will on board one. Will in first, Harshan in third. And as we get the action underway, I want to point out real quick, the top five features players from 5 different countries, America, Nigeria, England, Thailand, and Australia, but not just 5 different countries, 5 different continents, North America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia. How freaking cool is that? All united by one common love for a board game. And Will Anderson, no love for that rack. Double V's on the first pull. He's going to have to exchange back into ERS.
Yeah, that seems pretty clear, especially on the first turn, which a lot of players view as sort of a free exchange. You get better tiles and then you're going second. With 2 Vs and you can't play both of them at once, plus that G. Really smart by Will to not spend too much time thinking about that. And now I think we're going to see a fun word from Harshan if he plays this emo core, making the blank a C, a genre of rock music. Not every genre of rock music is in there, but emo core is. And Will probably get a bingo back in response with his good post-exchange draw.
Yeah, so we'll see exchange, bingo, bango. Harshan setting up emo core right away. He's put those letters back in alphabetical order. I think he needs to take a lesson from Tatcha and do the Tatcha shuffle here. But no, he's going to stare at this rack. He's seen the bingo, likely to play it soon, but wants to make sure he has to play that one and not another bingo that may prevent putting vowels next to those double letter squares. Is emo core your favorite genre of music, Charles?
I would say it is not by a long shot. Emo core would be sort of a derivative of emo, which is probably a type of indie rock. Definitely more of a metal guy myself, but most of the metal subgenres are not playable in Scrabble.
Not yet, but if you shred enough, you could make it happen. You could get them into the lexicon one day, I'm certain. Of course, Charles and I, both big metal heads. Charles is a metal drummer. I'm a drummer as well. I don't have a kit right now, but I do love playing the drums. I do love metal in general. So I think both of us more not so much fans of the emo core and more I'm a mellow death guy, and Charles has his own subgenres I'm sure he prefers.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the only real metal subgenre that's in the dictionary is mallcore, which is sort of an alt rock, influenced genre that they apparently play in malls, hence the term mallcore.
What would that be, like a Hot Topic music or something? Mallcore?
Yeah, I think it's like Slipknot and Korn and the stuff that they play in a Hot Topic.
Okay, perfect. So Mallcore, if you didn't know that, you do know it now. Mallcore. As Will to bingo, 2 very high prob bingos here, Relines and Learns, the 7s that would play with emo cores. He's both of those are 70 points. He's got one more through the M. That's ERMELINS, Ermelins. That also plays for 70 points. And Will got to figure out which one he likes in terms of long-term board shapes. Charles, do you have a preference between those?
My first inclination would be go for Ermelins through the M, just because I'm thinking sort of subconsciously that the M is the highest scoring tile on the board currently, so that's where I should be looking to bingo through. I would need to give it some thought as to whether I prefer the board shape of some of these other bingos, but certainly my first inclination would be Ermelins.
I'm looking at other core words, dance core, hardcore also in there. And most of these look to be soft core as well. So a couple other ones, dance core, my personal favorite.
And I know they just added they just added skate punk as well, which is a type of punk music enjoyed by skateboarders.
Very good. Yeah, skate punk. All right. Nice. Harshan, post bingo draw, rather poor. Aeeeirr. Perhaps we see easier through the S in Ermelin's. Erie playing in a few spots. Airy, Aerie, playing in a few spots. Turns like this, you know you're not scoring well. All your tiles score 1, and you're not going to be able to bingo with this many vowels. What are you looking to do in a turn like this, Charles?
It depends on what scoring plays I have available. But in the absence of any real standout scoring plays, I'm just looking to get rid of as many of these duplicates as I can. A lot of these letters are sort of good in isolation or with each other in small amounts, like IER, just ER. You know, those are workable combinations. But when you've got so many of these all at once, no real reason to keep more than 2 or 3 of them. So maybe the longer the play, the better.
Yeah, that's generally my approach with these racks too. The longer the play, the better. Just get rid of a bunch of it. I don't want to be caught up fishing 1, 2, or 3 turns as my opponent just pounds points every turn. And that's what Harshan chooses to do as well. Easier comes down 14 points, and his post bingo draw will be met by a terrible post bingo draw from Will as well. CEIIMUW. That is not fun for him. He's looking to play out of this IWI, will play to the right side of easier, forming EW and AI, though that opens this board rather aggressively. He'll have other options to score but hold terribly, WEM or MEW, playing either to the left or right side of Emo Core, or if he wants to get rid of more of these tiles, Cilium through the I in Ermelin, CILIUM, plays for 18. How would you approach this situation, Charles?
Sort of like how Harshan did, I would, if I'm Will here, I'm trying to sort of reset this rack. I'm trying to just move on from it as quickly as possible. So a play like Cilium, it scores decently enough. It keeps the W, which you don't want. But really, you're not going to get a good leave out of this rack, barring an exchange. So take a small amount, a decent amount of points, turn over some more tiles, sort of extricate yourself from this situation quicker. And the nice thing about something like Cilium is it doesn't really give back too much either. So even if your draw doesn't work out, you're not getting punished severely next turn for it.
Yeah, I prefer to play a little bit longer out of these racks as well. I think I'm drawn to Cilium, but it is hard to pass up on 33 points, though that IICU leave will probably score very few points for you next turn. Will probably better in these situations than most, so I'm curious. We could all learn a thing or two from Will and how he approaches these situations.
Yeah, definitely at this point, I mean, even though it's early and it's a close game, kind of an important turn to get right. It's worth spending some time to think about it. And one benefit of playing like MEW or WEM alongside Emo Core is just that it takes that spot away from Harshan next turn. Not necessarily, and it scores decently. You sort of give up on your immediate bingo aspirations, but you score well, take a good scoring spot away from your opponent, and if you are concerned about it, you block access to the triple word on the left of the board. Bingo's 8-letter words ending in R, which is definitely a consideration.
These are so tough, these turns here. And Will, with a big decision, as Harshan has one playable bingo this turn, that is through the I in Ermelin. So he can't know Harshan's rack or these possibilities, but Cilium is the play that's going to work out best for him. And Cilium is the play he's opted to make here. Perhaps his spidey sense is tingling. Perhaps he's just trying to play off as much of this muck as he can. But crucially for Will, he will block Painture, Painture, and Harshan now got to figure out what he wants to do. AENRT is a great leave. You'd hate to break that up, and you can just plunk UP to the left side of Emo Core, forming UR and PE for a nice 16 points. Or maybe you look to play a little bit longer in this situation. Input down from the I and Ermelin's scores 26. and holds AER. Maybe you could also consider splitting the difference. Rather than up, you play tup for 5 additional points. What do you think about this position for Harshan?
I really like that AE and RT combination is just so potent. It works so well with so many things. There's open E's to work with at this point, or at least one, the one in Ermelin's, to make your bingo chances a little bit higher. And it just is so attractive to keep those letters together, play off the P and the U, maybe do, as Matt mentioned, up alongside emo core. And just at that point, you're going for a bingo. And you have a pretty good chance of hitting it. I don't have the percentages on hand, but it feels like, a pretty good chance that you draw a bingo next turn.
I can get those percentages on hand. I'll run this through our Scrabble simulator or word game simulator. You can use it for others as well. It looks like Harshan, after a play of up against a computer opponent, is set to bingo a little over half the time next turn, 54%. A play of pun drops that from 53, 54% to 39%. So holding on to that N gives a lot of stability to the rack. We'll see if he's able to draw one, though. He's sacrificing 15 points of bingo percentage next turn for 5 points this turn, and perhaps a little bit of defense as well. Pun the play and will EQOTWYZ. I think this rack has a bingo percentage of 0.
Yeah. There's no way bingo happens out of here. The best that Will can hope for is scoring well with the Z and hoping that something materializes for the Q later, which is exactly what he's got set up. Again, thanks to some of these players for sort of annotating their thoughts for us by setting up words on their rack. They wouldn't have to do that for us, but some of these players do. And it gives us a little bit of insight as to what their thought processes might be.
I'm curious to see if players move the tiles any differently on stream versus over the board normally. I know typically I'm kind of a statue over the board. I just put my tiles in, alphabetical order and sit there. We saw Thatcha doing some very cool things. The Thatcha shuffle yesterday. Will always kind of sets aside what he's thinking about, and a few other top players do that as well. We've seen Wellington just kind of grab his tiles and put them down because he knows he plays so quickly sometimes out of those more obvious turns. But Will, I think TOWZY 49 points with Puny or 45 points above Ermelin's, making YE the candidates for him here. I think there's no reason not to grab the points. Yeah, underlaps could be killer for you, but this is good and defensive and obstructs some bingo lines. If Harshan is to bingo, sometimes it's going to string all the way down, back hooking NE. So a good play by Will, 49 points as well. He will pull ahead 137 to 107, and we'll see what he's able to pull into that queue. 2 U's already played means he's not likely to find much relief, but there it is, the third U, right on cue. I'll be here all tournament. Y'all have seen me do this time and time again. I say that he's going to need something, and then he pulls it. So, yeah, I'll continue doing that. OE?
Yeah, I'm getting you as...
Oh, go ahead.
I'm getting you as my assistant next game or next tournament I play, so that every time I need a specific letter, you can just whisper it and it will come into existence.
I'll just say in the chat, he really needs an E with this pull, and there it is. Man, that's happened so many times. OE, a very straightforward play for Harshan. Missing on his bingo, an N would have really helped with that rack. But OE, 25 points, and AERTT, a nice leave. He'll likely bingo this next turn, unless I just put the commentator's hex on once again. EEGNPQU for Will.
Will has a very straightforward play, I think, of... Well, he's got queen set up. I'm thinking Quep underneath OE.
Yeah, Quep, WOE, and Zep is a great play, but Queen also plays a little bit longer. Queen is 54 holding GP, Quep 50 holding GEN. I much prefer Quep and the stability of this rack. Yeah, you do give up the potential for QI underlaps, but you've also got an N to hit back if that does happen, making QIN. I think Quep a better play here.
Yeah, I think he's going to make that in short order. He's aware as a top level player that the PG combination that you keep after queen just is not very fruitful. It's not something that you want to do. Whereas ENG will bode better for him in the future.
Terawatt comes down instantly. The only playable bingo for him, 82 points. Nice. But yeah, I do agree. Quep and Queen, an interesting turn. Neither one would have addressed the threat from Harshan, though.
Yeah, Harshan pretty much knew if that didn't get blocked, that was going to be his play. So he was ready to play it without wasting any time, and a great find from him. Not often looking, when you already have 2 Ts on your rack, not looking to bingo to a T that's already on the board.
So Will hit with a bingo, Harshan pulling ahead, but Will to bingo back, a great pull for him into that ENG leave. DEEINRG, the pull. Will's going to have several options here, but one of them, the highest scoring one, is pretty sweet. Whoever can find 82 points first without using a program, my hat's off to them.
Yeah, Will knows that there's a lot of bingos in this rack. This set of letters makes a lot of 7-letter words, and there's a couple places to play 7 letters in a row. So there's going to be some time spent here just figuring out which one is best. And with so many options, that could take a while. You don't want to spend too much time. You do want to save time for the end game. But you also do want to make a correct play, and you don't want to miss something that's clearly best.
The best play here for Will, Reeding, sliding between Emo Core and Cilium with 4 overlaps, using that blank C to make CRU, Poem, URE, and NED for 82 points. That is tough to spot, but time and time again, Will has had exceptional board vision this tournament. I think if anybody in this field is going to spot it, it's going to be Will.
Yeah, I would actually, if he didn't see that, I would consider it sort of an uncharacteristic miss from Will, given that he's completely dialed in this tournament, but just generally has extremely good board vision. He's usually aware of hooks and insertions. Looks like he's missing it here. It's also possible that he had some other unknown reason for passing it up, but
yeah, Will,
if he really did just miss it.
Yeah, we've seen him multiple times do everything he can to knock out as many bingo lines as possible when he pulls ahead and really decrease volatility. This does that, knocks out obviously this column, the column 1 to the right side of it, knocks out the Zeps hook as well. So this is a good defensive play, and Reind obviously has no back hooks. But I do think I would have taken the additional points had I seen them. A tough spot, but maybe, this for 74, the other spot 82. I think 8 points is a little too much in a game this tight.
Yeah, I guess I will say that after Reind in this position, in that spot, the amount of places available for Harshan to play a 7-letter word, it's really only to the left of easier, and maybe some miracle play next to Terawatt. I don't know how many bingos would actually play there. So maybe from that perspective, it is worth the 8-point sacrifice to just, tell Harshan, hey, if you want a bingo, you're going to have to open something up for you to do that. And he might be sacrificing points to do that. He might be setting up spots that Will can jump on. This might be sort of a board control play by Will.
I think it is a miss. If I had to guess, that Poem spot, hard to see. I think it's just a miss from Will. But, if he does make a Poem play, that sets up the back S hook on Poem. Still 3 S's in the bag. If I had to guess, it's a miss, but Will let us know someday what his thoughts were on that play. Did he whiff it, or did he bypass on purpose? We will find out. Harshan's got such a tough decision this turn, as Will's play really did knock out most of the opportunity to bingo, and he's stuck with largely bingo-oriented tiles. He's got some good options with overlaps. You see he set up Nodal, which will play with 5 overlaps on the left side of Terawatt, Neor, DA, AW, and LA. But LA with the A front hook and 5 unseen A's, I don't think you can make that play. Does he look to set up one of his tiles on the left side of Terawatt? Does he look for plays on the right side of Terawatt instead? Or will he do something like this, a land of the play for him? I think that's reasonable. If in this situation, I do not want to get caught up fishing. I know that much. I don't want to be keeping ALNT trying to draw bingo next turn on a board with limited opportunities. So I think a land, a good way to score some points without giving too much back. Those turns are so hard.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you there that fishing would not be the right play there. Just going all out for the bingo simply because no leave that you can keep behind will ever be worth it, be whatever you're giving up. So, splitting the difference, scoring a decent amount of points, opening up that A might be a factor in the triple column, just as a spot to play an 8-letter word. When you're down, any bingo line, feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels like an escape valve for you. Just one more way for you to get back into the game.
Yeah, so FOB comes down quickly for Will, torn between DOF and FOB, but this far more defensive, at least to plays on the left side, though could get hit hard on the right side. One other neat option was FOETID above Ermelin's with 4 overlaps for 26, but FOB for 31, the play for Will. And he's able to break up some of the bad letters out of that rack. Harshan, EGLNOTU. And another tough turn for him here, I believe GOUT or GLOUT on the right side of Terawatt to come down here, forming TOFEU and ORT. Would you take the 6 extra points and play Glout, opening up this board, or would you play Gout in that same spot for 27?
Here I would probably do Glout. You get, as you mentioned, the extra points. The G and the triple lines, you sort of wish it wasn't there, but it's not, critically threatening for you. It's worth the points. And there's still a blank out. So you may be drawing one more tile also helps you get to the blank a little bit quicker. I'd say it's close, but I like Glout here.
Yeah, everything I was going to say, you just said in almost exactly the order and way I was going to say it. So I'll just sign off for the day. Charles, you're going to fly solo from now on. Just kidding. But no, I definitely agree with this play from Harshan. Maybe if I'm Will with the 60-point lead, I don't make this play. I prefer Gout instead. But with the deficit, play Glout. In a neutral score, I'd still play Glout, I think. And Will looking to respond. That G floating out there cannot be fun. But I think almost all of his good candidate plays here will do nothing to address it. TAIGS plays beneath Quep for 44 points, making QIUG and WOES. The same word without the S plays for 35. So Tig or Tig, Tigs or Tig, the plays here, I think, to consider. GAIT in the same spot, DIG in the same spot, also considerations. But I think we're going to see a QI play here in most instances. Do you see anything using that G that you would consider, or would you just grab 40 or 30 points here?
So I think Chad has picked up on this. I picked up on this as well, that Will might be trying Agadist here, which is phony, AGGADIST, which is similar to some existing words, but it's not actually a word itself. He's got it set up, which means he's thinking about it, and he looks to be a little bit, his body language is that of somebody who's facing a dilemma. And so he might be trying to figure out if that's a word. That would be kind of a crucial turning point for this game, because Harshan has Vigneron through the G set up and ready to go. Sort of another Terawatt situation where if that spot stays open, Harshan will play that within 10 seconds. So this is a big decision for Will. He does want to close the triple line, or even just the line for 8-letter words up there. But to do that with a phony would be, extremely damaging for his winning chances.
So I apologize, chat letting me know TAIG was expurgated. Apparently that is a slur. I apologize if I offended you. I have no idea what that word means, or nor that it was expurgated. But GAIT perhaps, or GID on the bottom. Agadist, looking like what he's thinking about. Looks like so many words. Haggadist, HAGGADIST, is valid. That's tough. Oh man. Harshan to bingo anyway next turn. Vigneron on top, Enveron elsewhere on the board, also playing. But yeah, huge turn for Will here. He got it right on Cilium. Will he get it right here?
Yeah, I think he's moved away from having Agadist set up. So, I mean, Will's word knowledge is really second to none. Missing a spot that makes insertions for a bingo is one thing, but just straight up missing words is not something we expect from Will. Or making up words out of thin air is also not something we expect from Will. So it looks like he's correctly passed up the bingo that he was possibly thinking about. And now it's just trying to decide if he should put the S on his play of gate.
So gates the play for Will. Crucially, this will turn over 5 tiles, let him dig for that unseen blank. Also crucially, this will allow the much higher scoring Vigneron through the G up top. Will's looking at this. He's shown the S now, so at this point, you've got to play it. You're not going to neglect to play it once your opponent knows you have it. But Gates the play, 43 points, and he's going to get hit back right away with the natural Vigneron. Will really needs to pull the blank here, as if he doesn't, Harshan very likely to pull it. Once we get Will's rack, we will display the unseen pool. There will be 17 unseen to Will, 10 in the bag for his decision here. A, B, D, S, Y, and another A. So Will has missed the blank. Will Harshan pick it here? This is a big draw for Harshan as well. 70% chance he pulls it out of this bag. That's wrong. 17 unseen. Much less than 70%. Apologies. But will Harshan draw it, or will Will have one more chance at it? Harshan's draw. Oh, anticlimax. We're going to confirm the scores real quick.
Yeah, it's like they know that we're waiting for the draw, and so they pick that time to be the first time in the game where they actually check each other's scores.
Right. For those unfamiliar with competitive Scrabble, players do have to keep track of the score themselves. So they announce the scores of their plays. Usually the other player will double count it to make sure. Some players take you at your word, but you both keep score for both players. And every so often, make sure you are in agreement. I think I've got 354. Oh, well, I think you've got 353. Let's discuss. This is tricky. What will Harshan pull? Tried to create the suspense. We lost it. Can I build it back up? Drum roll, please.
He's just taking his time tracking here. He doesn't even personally care what he draws. He just wants to make sure all the scorekeeping is accurate.
HLTOVIS. So no blank, but incredibly, if you look at this unseen pool to Will, there are only 4 vowels in it, and Harshan's found 2. So there will be a lot of consonants to be drawn. Will's got to be very concerned about this unseen blank as well. He's got to be concerned about the sheer number of consonants left. Maybe not concerned about a bingo, the spot to the right side of easier, impossible to hit without an E, R-E, the only 2-letter R word. So not concerned about a bingo, but look at those scoring tiles. C, F, H, H, J, K, V, X. Oh my goodness. I need to score points. I need to score points. But my opponent's going to score points back. I need to score points, but I also need to hold my vowels. There's so much for Will to think about here. This is a hard turn, and Will, with about 7 minutes and 30 seconds on his clock for the entire rest of the game, will need to figure this one out. BADDY looks to be a solid play to me through the N, or through the D and reigned. That's 30 points. AAS, generally not a great leave, but with this unseen pool, I like that quite a bit more. However, stringing that A above the double letter square can give back big plays to the H, to the X. I'm not sure I like that, but I think Batty or a similar play is how I want to approach this turn. Play one vowel, score a bunch of points, and hold the other 2 vowels and the S. Do you like anything aside from Batty here that I'm not seeing?
One thing that I saw quickly, but sort of discounted it just as quickly, is playing Abaya, Abaya, next to Reind, making ANBE and AD. That sets up the S, but also keeps no vowels. And Will is certainly looking at the situation in the bag, knowing that there's no guarantee that he draws even one vowel, much less two vowels. That would make the leave of DS more workable. So he knows that he has to keep vowels here, or that the strong preference would be to keep vowels here. But it looks like he has set that up, maybe with the thought that Abaya scores pretty well, and then you benefit from it again on the second turn by pluralizing it and hitting the triple.
I think
although in this case, Harshan is... Yeah, in this case, that would be a loser, especially because Harshan has an S and would just take the spot immediately. So it looks like Will might be reconsidering.
One other big concern in this game, below the E in Vigneron, is a spot to drop the X. Lax or locks options with X and A, X and O, or even X and blank. That'll be 50 easy points for whoever draws it. So if I'm Will, that's another compelling reason to try to hold an A here. I don't think Will can justify sacrificing points to block it. He's just got to hold his nose and hope that he draws it before Harshan, or hope that he can otherwise outrun. But even without the knowledge that Harshan has an S here, I think Abaya is a game-losing play with this unseen pool. You've got to hold the vowels.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if he plays Abaya, but he's come back to it. Again, thanks to these players for sort of putting their thought processes in real time onto their racks. And now he's readjusted to perhaps do Yaba, score fewer points, play in the same spot, also set up the S, but at least keep a vowel. If he's going to do something like that, definitely Yaba would be better. But he's going back to
Will.
Yeah, the original play of Batty.
Great decision. You've got to hold the vowels here. Will he pull the X? The X probably even more important than the blank for Will, as he's got the lax plays up top. Will he draw the X? Will he draw the blank? Will he draw both or neither? C, H, A, blank. No X, but crucially a vowel and the blank, meaning aside from the two vowels on Harshan's rack, there's just one more for him to draw. He can't know Will has all three A's on his rack. But oh my goodness, look at what is in the bag. D, F, J, K, X. Those are the tiles left in the bag. Wow. Okay. This one is going to be nuts. Both players, I think, going to be shaking their heads, thinking through a lot. And Will especially does not have the time to go through every option here. This is tough.
Since he hasn't drawn the X at this point, he's maybe just looking at LAH underneath Vigneron to eliminate that concern. And it kind of astoundingly, it also keeps sort of an outside chance of actually playing a bingo, which neither of us going into this endgame thought that bingoing would be a concern at all.
Yeah, so LAH, I think, after light, I don't think my opponent had the X. Maybe he didn't have the vowels to hit it. But look at this unseen pool to Will now. DFIJK OSVX. Will's got to be asking what beats me out of that. I'm down 19 right now. What beats me? Well, LOX beats me. What else beats me? He's got to think about more. OX on the right side of easier also plays for a lot. I think Will just has to hope he draws the X here, and he will, as Harshan incredibly missed it. He pulled the O, the last vowel, but missed the X. And this play of batch here for Will means he's going to draw that X and should go on to win this game. How incredible. Will pulling the blank and the X, Harshan missing both. And I think that'll be the decider in this. Will's going to breathe a sigh of relief as he sees that X and that J hit his rack. Wow. Can Harshan go out in two and catch Will with the J? Not with these tiles, I don't think. Somebody find a sequence. Somebody smart out there.
Yeah, and I guess, again, thanks to Will for actually playing batch very quickly, sort of sparing these two commentators the agony of trying to actually figure out what the correct end game play is. We weren't really given a chance to, given how fast Will played that. So thanks to Will saving us from sort of a tricky situation, we just kind of bypass it and move on to this turn.
Harshan has a win, and Harshan has 12 minutes to figure it out. This is crazy. This is so difficult to spot. Harshan has 1 win.
Are you going to let chat figure that out? Is this a puzzle?
Chat's figured it out. The win is Kivas through the A in Batty, making Nek, Kivas, will hold DOF. It's going to allow Harshan to go out next turn using the E in easier with Fiat or Defo, and that will barely survive the X bomb for Will, as Will's going to have to eat the J after that play. Incredible. Will draws the X and the blank, but also the J. And if Harshan can find this high-scoring out in 2 sequence, he'll be able to survive the 53-point bomb. Tough to spot this sequence, but Harshan, so much time, got to be looking for an out in 2 sequence. I think he spots it here.
And I think we're seeing in chat possibly blocking after, if something like Kivas does come down, does Will block with AX? I know it doesn't work because EXO is a word, EXO, and so DOF, DOF would just play alongside. He would have to come up with some more creative way to block, and maybe there's other spots for, oh yeah, Harshan also has Fiat through the E of Ermelins. So you're at that point just looking to score the points that you can, and in this case won't be enough.
Kiva's the other merit. Will has 1 opportunity to play both the J and the X in the word Banjax, Banjax, which would play through the N in rained. So Harshan's got to be worried about the X bomb up top, but Banjax an even more devastating play for him as it scores fairly well, but he won't be able to catch the J or the X on Will's rack after that. Kivas does everything it needs to do, blocks that, and holds an out in 2 in 2 guaranteed spots. Harshan's got to do all of that. The only winning play according to the engine right now. Wow.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to take his time here. There's no reason to rush into a play that you're not sure about. Looks like they restarted the clock, maybe a score confusion. There's no reason to rush into a play here. Harshan just has to take the time to figure out the end game, even if he's down to 30 seconds. If that's how long it takes for him to figure out the correct sequence, it's worth all the time spent.
Yeah, I mean, and these situations require so much math. Players do track off the tiles. They know exactly what is on the other player's rack. That is allowed and encouraged in tournament play, and top players hardly ever make mistakes doing so. Oh, here it is. He set it up. Look at this, KIV blank S. He's going to look at this, do some math, and we might find a smile on his face shortly. This is intense, folks.
Yeah, we'll be watching. We're watching for the moment of realization that it seems to win. And I think given how quickly he's played some other plays, he might be, once he finds a win, he might just be pouncing on it. Although, again, spread does matter in this tournament, the difference between your winning scores and your losing scores. And so even finding what seems to be a winning end game, it doesn't mean you shouldn't take a little bit of extra time to see if you can find something that's a slight improvement in spread.
But still,
we know from
finding 1 win.
Yeah, we know from the engine.
Huge. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we have the benefit of the engine that tells us that this is the 1 win and the best endgame sequence, but Harshan does not have an engine. Well, he does have a Scrabble engine in his brain. It's just not guaranteed to be accurate. And so he'll need to make sure that he's doing everything correctly. All the math checks out. At this point, I would be retracking the tiles to make sure that I have an accurate picture of what's sitting on Will's rack. I mean, the J and the X are kind of trivial to figure out, but like, did I mistrack an F or some high scoring tile that's going to impact the game?
Looks like he keeps coming back to this Kiefs play. Kiefs would play through the E in range. That would also block Banjax and would hold Devo in 2 spots as well. And yet Kiefs, I don't think scores quite enough. Kivas is 33, Kiefs is 29. And those 4 extra points are going to be what he needs to outrun the sequence.
Yeah, I think he must be doing a lot of not even mental math. He's probably doing a lot of, written down math to figure out exactly how these sequences work out for him, and trying to make sure that he's not overlooking plays for Will. But yeah, I would be very surprised for Kiefs to come down after it seemed to be that Kivas had been seen, because then math is, can be worked out, pretty easily. Oh, but it looks like he's doing Kiefs.
He has not hit his clock. Nothing is binding until the clock is hit, perhaps just counting the score here. But if Harshan does make this play, he's blown the game. And he's hit the clock. Will to win.
Yeah, we expect Will to do this correctly. It's definitely an easier endgame for Will than it was for Harshan. So we expect Will to come out with the win unless something weird happens.
I just wonder if he missed Fiat and only saw Defo as the out through the E and Ermelins. That's the only way I can make perfect sense of this. But Kiefs does not outrun. Will now able to play JEUX, and that's his winning sequence here. He'll need to play JEUX through the E and easier, inhibit the higher scoring DEVO outplay, dumping the J and the X. Harshan will still be able to play out with DEVO for 10, but Will's going to win the game with JEUX. LAX will not win it for him here.
Yeah, and again, a little bit worrying. He's got Lax set up. To see an endgame get sort of blown and then re-blown would be quite unusual at board 1 of the World Championship.
Wild game. Oh my goodness. This is going to be the second time on board 1, assuming Will does play this correctly, plays JEUX. He's got to do the math, figure out if I play JEUX and he just drops the O on top, OX, do I still win? That's a lot of points. But this will be the second time Will's won a game that he has lost in the end game because of a slight misplay, just a 1 or 2 point error by his opponent that gives the game to him. Unbelievable. Will looks defeated here. He looks a little bit too sad. We know he's won. I'm not sure he does yet.
Yeah, that's also sort of a Will thing where sometimes he looks sadder than he really is. It could be just trying to throw the commentators off. It was also brought up in chat that Harshan has coved, C-O-V-E-D, from the C in Cilium, which makes it even sort of more crucial that that spot gets blocked. So definitely Will should be looking in that area of the board for at least the start of his winning sequence.
And perhaps if you're Harshan, you're so blind, you're looking at the LAX spot below Vigneron that you don't think about the JEUX play. I know I'd just be looking to outrun Lax. I don't think I would have thought, oh, whoa, he can block the E and I'm forced to play out elsewhere for significantly fewer points. But Harshan had 13 minutes to think it through. I'm surprised to see he still has 6 minutes on his clock.
And now Will has set up JEUX. That's a good sign. I can't tell if he looks any more defeated or any less defeated than he did a minute ago. But at least it seems like he's got the tiles set up correctly.
And Will now in a time crunch as well. He's running out of time. He might just have to take a leap of faith here if he hasn't worked out the math.
Yeah, he has to play pretty soon here. He's kind of shaking his head it's a little bit worrying. There should be no uncertainty here. It's a game of perfect information at this point. And it looks like he's playing OX for 50.
Why would you play this? Why would you play this? So Will's giving it back. A blown, reblown game. We'll see if we can cut to overhead mic after this ends. But an incredible miss by Will, or perhaps we've got the score wrong. Goodness. Harshan to win.
Yeah, with the scores as we see them, it's Harshan's win.
Perhaps Will mistracked. Unbelievable.
And it looks like Harshan is now manually retracking to make sure that he's getting enough points for this to actually win the game. Although it should. It's with the J, it's pretty easy to figure out the math. But, and that doesn't hurt to be careful, and he does have 5 minutes left to assess the situation. And it looks like from Will's body language, he might be aware that he blew it. I don't know if he mistracked or what, but it looks like he's more exasperated than he would be if this was a known outcome.
The score we're displaying at the bottom would be after the play of Coved, after collecting the points from Will's rack. That will be the final, assuming everything stands, assuming Harshan makes this play. There is no reason for him not to make this play, but he's just double checking. Like, did I really just win? Did my sequence work? Shaking his head. I wonder if we've got the score wrong. I wonder if there's a 10-point miscalculation, if Will thinks he's 10 points ahead. I have no idea. This overhead mic going to be killer here at the end of the game, but Will looks so upset right now. Let's cut to that mic. The clock has stopped. The game is over.
5 plus another 22 gives you 457.
457, 448.
Sorry, you agreed with 457?
Yeah.
To 448, yeah. Oh, I mistracked you. You had DEV.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, I figured because from my perspective, you could have tied. I think you could have tied playing blacks.
That could have been a tie. I was trying to block.
Maybe. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I get it. I think that's a tie, right? Let me take a picture. Let's do the scores and then we can have a chat.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll look at it after.
I wanted to ask you what the totals in the bag were. There's totals in the bag, right? Did you pick two from the bag?
JX.
JX. Goodness. I was kicking myself for not playing the S here. I was beating myself up for not playing extra tile to give me an extra chance at getting the spot.
Yeah.
Just gonna take a quick picture.
Sure. Somewhere I just got rattled. All right, here's the moment of truth. I chickened out of a bingo.
What was it?
It's not good.
Show me. All right, yeah, fine. It's good with the H, right?
I just spent so much time.
I think it's good with
It
H.
is good with the H. So my thinking was, I don't know if it's good for sure, and if it is good, you could have an H and just negate the advantage. But I spent so long debating it.
I was thinking you were thinking about it because you were worried about leaving the 9-time open with the blank out.
Yeah,
I thought you were kind of having thoughts about not being really unhappy about leaving the G open.
Yeah.
So I misread the situation.
Gates for 43 puts me up a lot. I can withstand
the only move that I was really unhappy with is not playing one more tile.
Sure.
I mean, that would have. I was just sitting here thinking, and I nearly tilted and didn't see the end game because of that.
Sure.
Because I was thinking about that basically.
Right.
I was thinking you probably don't have the X if you played back, right? There's no way you would have played back with the holding the X.
For sure, yeah.
So I was killing myself for not playing the S.
I just got rattled by the whole deliberation over this.
Yeah. I completely understand. I get it. I've been there, done that.
I forgot to count the tiles. Batch might be okay, but I probably should play 2 tiles to preserve a bingo threat somewhere.
2, all right, got you. So I
had the blank, so.
Yeah.
Of course, if I'm drawing XJ, then it doesn't matter, and it actually.
I mean, basically, the X was a crucial. It was a crucial tile, right?
Yeah.
And this. I mean, I was happy. I mean, I'm going to look at the game, but I was killing myself for not playing one more tile here. Because I played it too quickly as well. I should have taken much longer. I should have taken a couple more minutes over the move.
I tracked the E's and I counted 11. So I retracked that tile, and I must have missed one on the board because I thought I was playing against DEV.
Yeah.
So if I just play lax, it ties. Huh?
I think that's a tie. What's that? No, that's
I just thought I thought it would clearly lose to Dev, right? I thought it clearly loses to Dev.
Is that right? Does that work? So the score.
If you have an E, but you don't.
So. All right, yeah. So let's do the math. So what's that? That's 53. That's 451. And then I get the same score, 22, 435.
Oh no, you would.
I'd still win.
You would still win, yeah.
Plus 20. I got the math wrong. So that makes it 455. 45. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter, Will. You couldn't have won.
All right. Well, I mean, is there a way to? What if I do this? This probably doesn't score enough, right?
That's 38, right? What's that? That's 34.
That's probably not enough.
Well, I can't score anything. I can only score here. I can't score very much at all. That makes it really interesting.
So 34.
Yeah.
That would bring me to
432.
432. You would be at 413.
I have to play this.
6. You're getting 6 from me.
That's just 10.
So
423.
So this looks like it gets it done for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a blown game. My first obviously blown game.
I was just kicking myself. I played this far too quickly. And the moment you played that, I realized Dex was in the bag, basically.
Yeah. Okay, well, I just had a lot of...
457, 448, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to submit.
So a key mistrack leading to a blown game, and Will realizes it after an extensive post-mortem. A huge victory for Harshan of England and a devastating defeat for Will. Wellington did defeat David Elgar in a matchup of former world champions. And with that loss from Will and that win from Harshan, Wellington now 1 game clear of the field. Will and Harshan a game behind him. And pending next round's matchups, Tatcha of Thailand could join them as well. A wild back and forward game. That was incredible to watch. Even the top players in the world make mistakes every so often across a long 32-game tournament. But Will's got to do what he can to shake this one off and get back to the next game. And Harshan has to be so relieved to sneak that one out. We're going to watch the matchups come in and the results come in from the previous round to make sure we can bring the most enticing matchup possible in round 27. We're going to cut away for a few moments as we do that, and I will put our matchup in chat as soon as we've made that determination behind the scenes. Y'all don't go anywhere. 6 more games to go in this tournament. Stay tuned.